Keep going. Nolan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Because nobody's talking, so I don't know if it works or not.
No, they all muted.
Oh, good. Very good. But at least I hear you.
Yeah, I know. I had a problem with mine yesterday. I had to work with Jeff to get mine up and running again.
Very good. So I'll mute myself now.
Me too.
The counselor is just trying to get in and then we'll begin.
Good morning, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I was having some trouble entering into the meeting. Actually, I was calling in as well, so I'm gonna hang up. I'm not sure. Has anybody else joined or?
Yeah, a few people have had issues. Yeah, everyone's almost here. We're just waiting on the counselor who's having technical difficulties.
Okay.
Um,
Hi, folks. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. I apologize for the late attendance. He was stolen, so I apologize to the tenant who just got booted from this meeting. Hopefully, Tyler can get you back on through another link. So it's great to have you all here today. I apologize, as I mentioned, for the tardiness. I just couldn't get onto the call. There is obviously an agenda that's been circulated. Tyler Johnson, thank you very much for all your hard work in bringing us back together. I want to thank the participants who are on the screen with us today, and obviously to those who are watching. This is the second meeting we're having with the tenants as well as the property owner manager of 33 Isabella. The intention today is to do some follow-up work on our previous discussion, which I think we ended up in a good place. But since then, there's been I understand some troubles, and those troubles need to be addressed today, and that's what we're hoping to do. So I want to just allow just for everyone to just take a moment. If you have seen the agenda, that is incredibly helpful. We're going to follow that agenda because it's going to guide our discussion. Tyler, thank you so much for putting that agenda on the screen. The agenda is largely going to highlight a few things. And I want to just recognize that Suze Morrison, our MPP, is here with her staff to support this call as well. The agenda has a few highlighted issues that we want to be able to address. First of all, I think we could probably just do a quick round of introductions once again, so everybody becomes once again very familiar with who we are, what our roles are. We want to be able to go through the timeline, the itemized actions, and the outcomes from those significant dates. They are on your screen. We're going to have an opportunity for the tenants to provide some remarks and to also give us an assessment of what they believe has been happening and some positions that I know that they want to put forward so that we hear it as elected officials, both Suze Morrison and myself, but also that the landlord and property owner has a chance to hear from them directly. Following that, there'll be an opportunity for the owner and property manager to also speak. And probably respond to the tenants, and just one more opportunity for the tenants to reply to that before we move on to next steps. So Tyler, if you can take the screen back down, thank you very much. So I want to just be able to highlight that we've also created a flow chart. Tyler had showed you the flow chart. It was also on the screen, but let's do some quick recapping. On June the 3rd, a good number of you came into this virtual room and we decided to unpack an agenda that was fairly full. There were some serious grievances that were put forward by tenants. And I think the tenants did an excellent job of itemizing some of those concerns so that I could hear as an elected official, as well as MPP Morrison. And certainly the same went for the property owner and landlord. And then subsequently on June 14th, there was a reply from the property owner who pledged to us that he would provide us a reply. That reply was delivered. We helped disseminate that to the residents, and the residents have subsequently provided the property owner with a list of additional tenants that they had asked for, people who live in the building who had some concerns, as well as the tenants have now provided another written response to the property owner. So that's why I was saying that there's a lot of back and forth and significant conversations that I believe have taken place, including written replies, which I think is very helpful because it helps us keep track of what's going on. So what I'd like to do at this point in time is just give MPP Morrison a chance to say hello. And then immediately after, we're going to turn it right over to the tenants to itemize their position based on the landlord's first submission in writing, their reply to them, and then maybe explain why they replied in the manner that they did. Obviously, there is also the tracking form that Tyler had put onto the screen, which you all have access to. And that is just our way of trying to manage the conversation that you folks are having. And hopefully that you will find that to be a helpful tool as well. So go ahead, MPP Morrison, just a few minutes, please, to say hello.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't have a lot to say. I'd like to make sure that the tenants obviously have enough, the majority of the time in this meeting to raise their issues. But I do want to acknowledge that I'm here along with my staff member, Ben Donato-Woodger, and we are here as a resource to answer any questions related to the Provincial Residential Tenancies Act, any clarification that we can provide on that point, and obviously ensure that we get to a resolution that's going to ensure that the tenants are feeling safe and supported, and that they have the full enjoyability of their units. So happy to support that in whatever way we can, and we're here in this meeting as a resource.
Thank you, Suze. Thank you. I wholeheartedly endorse and echo those comments. I just want to say hello to Janice as well as Christina. Obviously, you're here on behalf of the tenant side. Can you take us through your position, your recent reply to the landlord, and then we'll kick it off from there. Go ahead, please.
So hello, everyone. So we just want, the Tenants Association obviously desperately wants and is eager for a resolution. We were not happy with the responses, and Janice is going to go through them in a little bit more depth. But we definitely, tensions have been rising since our meeting in the building, and we definitely want a fair and equitable resolution for everyone at hand. We want to peacefully coexist. So please know that we, the Tenants Association, are eager to resolve these items. As much as there have been, disputes and whatnot, we are eager to come to that resolution. Janice?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We want to, I want to start with a comment made on our Tenants Association meeting on Monday evening. One of the tenants rather well encapsulated our feelings at this point. She said, "We feel irrelevant. We do not believe that the owners and managers care about our feelings and our experiences." It's very unfortunate that we've gotten to this. After our last meeting, we were very happy. We came away feeling that we had been heard and that we were going to get a reasonable accommodation and response to our concerns. That was not reflected in the written response we got 10 days later. The written response we got 10 days later was dismissive in tone, repeated everything they had said earlier with virtually no concession to our concerns. We want to reiterate that there are residents suffering mentally and physically because of what is happening in our building, both due to this particular project and due to all the other projects that are underway in our building at the moment. Since our last meeting, it appears that there are far more workers in our building at any one time. There appear to be dozens of them. Some residents have had work being done on units beside them, above them, and below them at the same time. So they are feeling under attack. There are people going to hospital with migraine being triggered by this. Since our last meeting, the occupied units have begun to be renovated, and we have had reports from individual tenants about their experiences with that renovation, and they have varied greatly. Some have been fine, relatively, with a few complaints. Others have not. The original projection that it would take from 1 to 5 days did not match several residents' experience. There is one resident who said hers was still not done after 9 days. The residents were told that they would have a furnished unit to stay in during that time. And in fact, they were being harassed after every day to go back. They were led to believe that they would be able to stay there for the duration of the repairs, and that was clearly not the case. They were told to give back their keys. First, they wanted them to do that every day, so that and not stay there at night. Some refused because staying there at night was safer, particularly for those with children, rather than go back to a unit that had none of their belongings accessible and they were not cleaned up and left safe at the end of each night. We determined that the doors to the apartments that were being renovated are being left unlocked all day, with workers coming and going. And in many cases, there would be no one in the unit and no one guarding it. People coming home at 5 o'clock, expecting everything to be done and finding their door unlocked. The front door to the building has been open virtually for months. People are coming and going who don't belong in the building. There are people in our stairwells leaving dangerous materials behind. People are starting to use the stairwells because the elevators are inaccessible because of so many workers. There are times when we have to wait excessive lengths of time to get on an elevator, and then when an elevator does come, there are workers on it, and there are people in the building who are frightened to join them, either for health reasons, because of the pandemic. We are not supposed to be sharing enclosed spaces, or because they feel intimidated by the actions of some of the workers. The temporary apartments are not suitably furnished. There are residents who want to stay there are having to bring their own furniture into those units. If they're going to have to move their furniture around into other units, they might as well be given a new unit permanently. And that is what several of our tenants are now asking for. And finally, in terms of new things, there is a lot of concern with the news out of Florida. Residents feeling the building shake and seeing the heavy work that's being done in the basement. We are concerned about the overall safety of the building, and we would like more information about the safety physically of the entire building. what is it that's being fixed and why, and is it being properly inspected, and all of that. We would like to be notified of those things. Most of our notifications are so brief as to not be helpful. Specifically, our original demands, I'll go through them very quickly. They have not, by and large, they have not changed. Our base demand is that we want the option to refuse renovations in occupied apartments. We were led to believe at the last meeting that that would be honored. It has since not been honored. We point out that if you agree to allow this, then you don't have to deal with all of the other things that you have to will be necessary to make this work. Limited predictable hours. Being told that that the work will be limited to a 12-hour period each day is not a reasonable, is not limited predictable hours in any way. We would like to be able to plan so as not to be stressed nonstop for long periods of time. We would prefer that a designated period each day be allocated for the noisiest of the work. We have jackhammering, grinding, pounding, and drilling going on at random, unpredictable times during the day. If it was always at the same period of time of the day, it would be easier to plan. The right to protect our physical and mental health. You say you're following COVID-19 protocols, but COVID-19 protocols are that people wear masks all the time, and that is not happening. COVID-19 protocols are that we don't have people who don't belong to our family units in our units, and that is not happening. So it is not the case. And the fact that you delayed the work until the end of the stay-at-home order, everyone knows that the stay-at-home order, that there was virtually no difference between that and the following regulations. We were still not supposed to be traveling. We were still not to be mixing with people, particularly indoors. And that has continued to be the case. This pandemic is not over, and everyone is acting as if it is. Respectful interactions with management. The response said that this is a high priority. It does not appear to be a high priority given the actions of management. We are not talking, we reiterate, about Tanya, the woman in the office downstairs. She's fine. She tries. She's totally overworked and overwhelmed. She's fine. Compensation. Given that we have discovered that the situation is far worse than we expected, we are now demanding a minimum of 2 months rate abatement for everyone, and an additional month for those who are having their units renovated. It is a lot of work to prepare for those renovations and to deal with the aftermath. So that's going to require more time. Assistance in preparations, we've been told that that will happen. That has been, it has varied from tenant to tenant, but generally speaking, people are not getting enough assistance because it seems to be the case that people think that it can be done in a few hours. And given the amount that needs to be done, in many cases, furniture needs to be moved into the bathroom or kitchen or something, or into the other unit. A few hours is not sufficient for that. We reiterate our demand for security personnel, not just that the management open the doors at the beginning of the day and close the doors at the end of the day. If workers are not in there nonstop for that whole period, then there is no one guarding that apartment. We would again ask that you remove your statement that you are not responsible for loss or damage to our belongings. That's unreasonable. Alternate housing, the units that we are offered need more than what is in them now. At the very least, they need somewhere for us to sleep. Going back and forth to an apartment where everything is covered and packed away and furniture is shoved up against corners of walls and things is not an acceptable way for us to live for 5 days, 6 days, 9 days, apparently.
Janice, sorry,
Yes.
it's Krystin speaking. I've noticed that George, the owner, has dropped off the call, or has he just taken himself off of video? Can you just hold on? I want to make sure that
Sure.
we still have a representative from the building.
Kristen, I think both the owner and Nolan, the property manager, are unable to join. To be honest, I mean, I've been chatting with Tyler during this time.
Who's this? Sorry, if you can just
This is
identify
NASCO
yourself.
construction manager for the
Okay.
project. So yes, I think both of them, Nolan, I mean, the owner just dropped off, but Nolan has been trying to rejoin. Okay.
So
Very
hi, NASCO, thank you for your comments. I see
Yeah.
that George is back on the screen. And I do believe Nolan is actually one of our panelists. His camera is just off. So Nolan and George, can you just please put your cameras on, just because I hope you can appreciate that it takes a lot of time and effort to put together this virtual setting, to set up the agenda for a constructive conversation. It would just be helpful for us to know that you're here.
I'm here, but I can see myself, but I'm having problems where I lose. I couldn't hear for a while. Then what I did is I got off the meeting, but I don't know how to do this. So I had somebody take me off, put me back on. Then I heard again, then I didn't hear again.
Okay.
But now I know on my, it says Nolan Rodriguez on my, now it changed to George Gantcheff.
Okay. That's right. So George,
you
it's great. Yes, we can hear you and we can see you. George, if you want to just mute your microphone, but please leave your video on, just so we know that you're there. That would be great.
I'm
Thank
there.
you. Okay.
So you're going to mute again.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
mute myself. Sorry, son. I'm so sorry.
No problems. Nolan, are you here? Because you're a piece of the puzzle here.
So Kristen, Nolan is on the phone, but he cannot speak. He cannot join the meeting via the web address. It keeps kicking him out.
So we're having a bad Zoom day. So everyone stay put, because you're exactly where we need you to be. Nolan, I recognize you're on the call, so I'm glad you're at least listening. So thank you for that. Janice, I apologize for the interruption. I just want to make sure you had the audience that you deserve. So please proceed.
That's okay. I'm not sure what I should be repeating. I'm not sure how long they've been gone.
I think where I saw George pop off the screen is probably around alternative housing and professional cleaning service. So you're getting to those points. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay. Yes, so far the alternate housing that's been provided is not sufficient. Residents have had to attempt to move their own beds into that unit in order to be able to stay there overnight, which is pretty much required if you have children or pets, or if you want to sleep in any kind of comfort, given that the furniture being moved around in a studio or one-bedroom apartment in order to make space means that everything's all crammed together and virtually nothing accessible. So at minimum, in order to make those alternative apartments useful to us, we need a bed. If that can't be provided, we would prefer to be put up in a hotel. And that should be for the duration of the work. It's being suggested that after the windows replacement is done on the first day, that the unit is livable after that. It is not, for the reasons just stated. If everything could be uncovered and they could have access to their stuff, that's fine, but they can't because of all of the follow-up work that's being done. And in fact, one family that was told to go back after 5 days found that the work was not done and there was still bits of plaster falling from their ceiling that their small child was picking up, and they're afraid that this was an unsafe and unsanitary condition. The window coverings had not been provided. The air conditioner had not been reinstalled. And as you know, the heat over the last week has been particularly bad. They were afraid they were going to have to take their small child to hospital because he was running fevers because they couldn't keep his temperature down because they had no air conditioner or window coverings. So get to window coverings as the next item. We have been told that they will be supplied, but it has been suggested that this will not happen until the end of the project, which is the end of August. That's not reasonable. Not in the middle of summer, not with a wall full of windows. Same thing for the air conditioners. And finally, better communication. Perhaps it is an honest representation that you think you're providing all of the information you need, but it should be clear by now that that isn't the case, that in order for us to prepare and feel that we understand what is going on, we need far more detail. And so we're asking for two things. One, a long-term plan for larger projects with start and end dates, and an explanation for when those things were adjusted, because this project has been announced multiple times and then not gone forward. And we've never been told why it didn't go forward at different times. We just keep getting new announcements saying that it's going to start again on a certain date. And the same sort of thing happens with water and fire and all kinds of other things. We're told that something's going to happen and then it doesn't happen. And we all have to go wandering around trying to find the person who can answer our questions as to whether it's still going to happen, or whether it did happen and we somehow didn't know, or whether it was canceled or what. And then we would also like a weekly list of which units are going to be having work done, so that we know which ones are near us. Just knowing that our unit is going to happen on a certain date isn't sufficient when the noise is extreme, when it's happening right beside you, right above you, right below you. So we would like to know which units are going to have work done on which days, and have that information provided to everyone. Obviously, you have that information because you're supplying them to the particular units that are being worked on. So it shouldn't be difficult to provide that to the entire building. And finally, I mentioned elevator access. In order to deal with the problem that the elevators are constantly in use by the workers, we would like one of those 3 elevators to be designated off limits to the workers, so that we can always rely on an elevator coming when we call it, and not having to argue with workers about them getting on when we don't want them to get on, or having to wait for the next one and the next one and the next one in order to get an empty elevator. Thank you. I look forward to your response.
Janice, thank you. And thank you for the summary, and also for your leadership in working with the tenants to organize a unified voice. I think, one observation I want to just offer is that it makes life a lot easier when everyone is organized. And so the fact that tenants have taken upon themselves to create a tenant association so that they can actually present one position, a joint and unified position, to a property owner. I think the property owner, this is my experience, is that it should be received in gratitude, as opposed to hearing from a cacophony of different voices in a cacophony of different manners. So this is allowing for streamlined communication, which makes it even easier for everyone to respond to. George, I know you're on the call, and Nolan is on the phone. I'm going to turn over the floor to you very shortly, and I want you to just consider how we proceed over the next few minutes and the balance of this meeting. I am working really hard, and Tyler Johnson from my office is working really hard, as well as our MPP and her staff are working really hard to make sure that this renovation at 33 Isabella goes smoothly, but at the same time, we're running into massive disruptions. And I think that the reason why we're here and why I'm here as a political representative and the MPP is here is because the tenants are saying that they're not getting resolution. So I want to just offer you a quick observation. When we convened this meeting on June the 3rd, we did so after listening to a number of tenants reach out to our office. We compiled a series of notes. We compared their reports, and there was this repeated trend that we observed. So we started to catalog all their concerns. We put that forward in an agenda that we use to guide the discussion, so you're not dealing with many different tenants in many different forums. We actually did this work for you. I organized the meeting for you as the landlord and property manager, because we wanted you to have a good working relationship. We wanted your relationship to be amicable, respectful, and professional. It is not necessarily my job or MPP Morrison's job to do that, but she's here to support my office, and my office is working with the tenants. So we're all trying to get you to the same place. So the outcome from the June the 3rd meeting was, I think, encouraging. So I would concur with Janice and Christina's observation, is that we felt that that work, that heavy upfront load and organizing was helping everyone on the call. So it is actually discouraging to then see the response in writing that seemed to vary so greatly from your initial reply. And so I appreciate that you did provide something in writing as you committed to. So I thank you in advance for that. But it was very contradictory to what you said at the June 3rd meeting. And so the tenants then had to reorganize themselves one more time without my office and without MPP Morrison. They put together a response, which they've now submitted to you. So we are now here at this bit of a crossroad, as far as I can tell. And I want to be able to put us all back on the same road, all in the same path, working together once again. And in order for us to do that, George and Nolan, my office has put together a little flow chart. So we're trying to give you all the tools possible. This little flow and evaluation chart that helps us even itemize what was asked for and what the response is. We've identified what sections of the law is responsible to provide the purview, and what jurisdiction does it sit under as it relates to perhaps the building code or the Residential Tenancies Act, or perhaps City of Toronto's Rent Safe TO program. I'm doing all of this work to try to bring you as the property manager and owner to the table in a constructive manner. And so I want to just put those comments forward to wrap the tenants' comments and my own comments around it, is that all of this is trying to get to a better outcome. And I want to be as patient as possible, but my patience is wearing very, very thin. And I'm hoping that you respond to the tenants in a way that's consistent, and also in a way that actually meaningfully addresses some of the concerns. And I'm not unsympathetic, entirely not unsympathetic to the fact that it's a very expensive asset that you want to maintain, but you must commit to your words and be consistent. And right now it hasn't been consistent. So I want to turn the floor over to you. We did provide you with that flow chart. So if you want to organize your thoughts according to those flow, the subject matter identified, that might help organize your presentation. So thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
First of all, I'm a little bit insulted when you kind of tell me that I'm not respectful to the tenants. I'm very respectful for the tenants. And, you know, I listened to the tenant talk and there's a lot of inconsistencies. You know, she's asking why the project is taking so long. The project's taking so long because of COVID. We stopped many times. I find it very, very disrespectful of people that constantly say that I'm not doing things right. I haven't gone in any units. And I specifically asked last time, when you make allegations, you should tell me which unit number. She makes allegations that people are waiting 9 days, people don't have the blinds will be after. First of all, how does she know we're not doing it in her apartment? But these allegations with no tenants' names, I'm starting to get very annoyed too. I'm all in my right to keep my property in good shape. The City of Toronto sends me Rent Safe to come and tell me that my windows are not closing properly, to come and tell me that my hallways are not in good condition. The City of Toronto, by the way, for my permit next door, is forcing me to do amenity space in the building. So to me, it's a little bit inconsistent. And even of the 40 tenants that she represents, We've already done about 6, 7, 8 apartments, and the people are very happy. Again, like I tell you, what I'm asking is, I do not like people that tell me this person is complaining, this person went to the hospital. Who is this person? I'm entitled to know because they didn't come to the office to complain. So if people are going to blame me for something, I want to know who is the person complaining, because we're not getting any complaints. On the contrary, the people are very happy. And we are communicating with the tenants. We tell them that we are telling them what we're doing. We're not telling them what apartment we're going in, because sometimes we have changes. So it's hard for me to tell them which apartment, and I don't think that honestly, it's their business. We're doing the whole building. We've done already over 270 units. A lot of people still live in the building. They represent a very minute part of the tenants in the building, and most of them are happy. And when she makes allegations, I'm not putting air conditioning, who tells you that I'm not putting air conditioning? I want to know which tenant. The blinds, they have to be measured. It takes some time. But who says that I'm not putting the blinds till the end of the project? Where does she get these things? It's all
So
untrue.
George, thank you. Thank you very much for
So, you know,
those comments.
when you tell me that your patience is running thin, mine is running even thinner. And if you remember, and we say that I'm not consistent at the last meeting and this meeting, I am very consistent. And I don't like when people tell me that I'm not consistent. If somebody's being inconsistent, it's Janice and her group, right? That send text messages to everybody saying, give them a hard time, whatever. Janice, by the way, and their group wanted 1 month. I said, you know what, you should wait till the end of the project to really evaluate what you're entitled to. Now she wants 2 months. So if anybody's inconsistent, and I don't like getting upset and I'm getting very annoyed, it's me. So the city of Toronto, which you represent, the Ontario government's got to decide. Do we let buildings run like a dump, or do we fix up the buildings? And the apartments, by the way, that she says are not, I'm not gonna, in the apartment, there's a desk, there's a table, somebody can go work, there's Wi-Fi. People do not sleep there. When I change the window, there's very minute repairs to do after. I think what we should do, instead of talking on the phone and doing Zoom meetings, why don't you go to the property to see people that we've done the apartments to? I think it would be a better idea. Instead of listening to, again, like I told you, she never gives me apartments number, never gives me people's names. And I don't have any complaints at the office. So I'd like to know who's complaining. Am I entitled to know who's complaining? Or just when people say, oh, these people are complaining, I sent these people to the hospital. I want to know, who did I send to the hospital? I find those are very serious allegations. I don't know if you, I think they're very, very serious allegations, and I don't take them lightly. You are blaming me for something which I'm not getting back from my people, and I'm there 2 days a week, and I've spent a lot of time in the building. But I've got somebody in her organization, by the way, going into apartments that the contractor are working in, which are empty apartments, which she comes in, she scares the people, she hides somewhere, scares a construction worker that went to pick something up. Like I told you, please send somebody to spend a day there. Look at the text messages that she's sending to all the tenants, which the tenants are scared of her group they're scared of.
George,
they come to the office to say that they want the work done in their apartment. Come one day in the building. I invite you all to come one day in the building and see what's going on. And see how many appointments that we've changed.
George, I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you to redirect your comments a little bit. So, with respect to the organization of this meeting, I've taken carriage of doing so. I've done everything I can to respectfully assemble the thoughts and the requests from the tenants. I have put forward your representation as you submitted it back to them, which I helped disseminate. And so, what I want to offer you is a chance to work constructively with my office, with the MPP, as well as the tenant association. The tenants have formed an association. They have given Janice and Christina, and they chose them to speak on their behalf today. The positions that they have selected to represent is largely culled and crowdsourced from those tenants. And I think that there's an opportunity for all of us, including yourself as the owner, to make good of this venue. So I want to be able to be clear that, you know, how we move forward together is a matter of personal choice. I'm choosing to put my time into investing in the relationships that are on the screen here. I'm choosing to use my staff resources to pull you folks together so that there can be a more constructive dialogue. The tenants have every single right, as you know, to voice their concerns to their elected officials, and the elected officials have a chance and an opportunity to respond. That is what we are doing. And George, if you don't want to be here, and if you want to just accuse the tenants of perhaps maligning you, yes.
I'm not, first of all, one second.
But that's
No,
exactly
no,
what you've just said.
No, one second.
I
Again,
need
you're
to
putting
finish
words
my
in
thought.
No, you're putting words in the mouth.
You
They're
have falsely
they're
accused her of,
accusing-
you
no,
have
no,
falsely
no, no, no,
accused
no.
her.
You know what? I don't like
You-
that.
you-
I don't like your, no. You're not gonna
You
do
have
that.
falsely
Hold on.
accused
You
the
are-
tenants
no,
of
I'm not
misrepresenting
no,
the
I'm
tenant's
not
position.
I am not falsely
You have
accused.
falsely
I
accused the
said-
tenant
I said, when you
association.
say that somebody complains, you should have the name of that tenant. How can I
They
deal
are
with the
prepared.
problem if I don't know? There
So
is
they
no
are-
name. Every
they
time
can
it's
provide-
accusations with no base. I'm
So
very sorry.
They
And
have
again,
provide they
For
can
it to be-
provide that to you.
No, to be constructive, by the way, you can't only be one-sided. If it's going to be constructive, it's got to be both-sided. I'm not going to get railroad or say that I think, which, like I told you at the beginning, what upsets me the most, and which I'm not willing to accept, is people that say that I say things that I don't respect it. I respect my word. And I've pushed nobody.
There are records in my office. There are records in my office, in the MPP's office, as well as the tenant representatives of this particular type of complaints. So it's not the fact that this is being manufactured out of thin air. There are documented conversations and records in all three of our offices that are consistent about the way the tenants are feeling. I understand that this may be a difficult conversation for you. If you cannot have that, then send us a representative that can. But to actually impugn the reputation of the tenants is entirely unacceptable. I cannot accept that.
I never talked about the reputation of the tenants. All I told you is when somebody complains, I want to know who's complaining. I cannot fix the problem
I've tried to say
generalized.
So I've tried, George. I'm gonna bring the MPP in this conversation. George, I'm gonna bring the MPP in this conversation.
Thanks, Krystin. I'd like to jump in for a hot second. And I just want to say, George, you know, my office has been providing a lot of the support to help the tenants organize. You know, the starting of a tenants organization is not an easy feat. And typically where we see it, I mean, we're connected to a lot of this work across the riding. And typically where we see it succeed, where we have with the tenants in your building, is where the tenants are unified with common concerns that they want to bring to the attention of the landlord to achieve a resolution. And I can tell you, because I have sat in on these tenant association meetings every time that they have met, that it is a large contingent of your tenants who are at that meeting. And I really want to push back and challenge the comments that you were making earlier, that this is Janice's group and the personal attacks that were being made on Janice. I have been in those meetings. These are the collective, I can witness and attest that these are the collective concerns of your tenants. And they held an election and voted amongst themselves on who they were going to send to bring their issues to your attention. This is not Janice, the tenant, and her personal opinions. These are the concerns of your collective tenants, and collectively, they chose to send Janice and Christina to represent them and their concerns. And so I would just ask you to be mindful as we proceed, that this is not one or two of your tenants that are here in this meeting today that you personally disagree with and you think are bringing their personal opinions into this. I have
I'm not,
witnessed
I'm not,
these tenants
again,
association
again,
meetings.
you're putting
These
words
are
in
the
my mouth, which
collective,
is not.
these are the
it's not-
collective concerns of your tenants.
No,
And they were
what I'm
elected
telling
by the
you
group
is-
democratically to represent them, and I would like you to recognize that.
I
And
recognize that.
not
I
personally
recognize
attack
that.
tenants here in this meeting today.
I'm not attacking anybody. Again, don't change things around because I tell you, I'm getting very, very annoyed. What I'm
George,
asking
you're wasting
you is,
time, George. George,
I'm
you're
not
wasting
wasting,
time.
I'm not wasting time.
I
To
would
you, I'm
like
wasting
to-
time, but to myself, I'm not wasting time. I think it is very important when you bring up things in generality that some tenants that took 9 days. I think it's fair that you tell me which tenant took 9 days. How am I going to check if you don't tell me who's involved? I never told you that I'm not. I agree. I'm very happy that I have Janice representing 40 tenants. 40 apartments are represented by Janice's group. I'm very happy, right? I don't need to negotiate with 40 people. I told you I'm very happy. But I think, like I told you in the first meeting, why did I ask Janice for her list? To know who she's representing, right? Now I'm
That
asking
list
you,
was
Janice is
provided
making.
to you. That list was
I
provided
told
to you,
you that I-
George, on June
It was.
22nd.
I
June
told you.
22nd, that list was
I
provided to you.
But I told you I have that list. Now what I'd like to do, when she has complaints, direct complaints about somebody unhappy, I would like to know who it is. That's all I'm
George,
asking.
actually, if you look in the chat of the Zoom, I want to point out that about 15 minutes ago, Janice replied in the chat that she has a detailed list of incidents that she would be happy to supply to you. And we have now spent the last 15 minutes bickering. And she has said in the chat that she's happy to provide a detailed list of incidents. So I think that
all
piece
I'm
is resolved and we need to move on from that so that we're not
Okay,
wasting
but
each other's
I
time
don't
here
look-
today, George.
I don't look at chats. I don't know how that works, so I'm not very
So
computer.
there are a few hands up. We haven't even gotten to the substance of your reply to the organized position and thoughts that Janice and Christina have submitted on behalf of the tenants. I want to make sure we have a chance to actually discuss those actual issues that they have raised and identified and then reiterated. The initial list of tenants that the Tenant Association represents was submitted to you on June 22nd. She is now going to submit to you the list of tenants with the grievances that have been identified because it's the same list of tenants. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a part of the association. So George, I want to give you a few minutes to actually talk about a response and speak to what was identified. Otherwise, this meeting is for naught. So can you speak to the issues that were raised by Janice and Christina on behalf of the association?
Maybe what you can do to help me out, because like I told you, I missed part of it. I'm sure you took notes. Like I told you, the Zoom wasn't working, so I lost part of.
We're going to put on the screen for you right now.
Nothing's coming on my screen. Like I told you, I'm not computer savvy. I'll just check if something's coming up. Oh, now something's coming up.
So you can start with number one. There was a request for unwanted. So if you said at the last meeting on June the 3rd that the tenants didn't want you in there renovating, that they had the right to decline. I took notes of it, and now you have a slightly different response.
Again, I'm sorry. I'm not. Maybe I wasn't that clear. I thought while the COVID problems are in, we're not going to do it. We've got plenty of apartments, and if the trend continues, we won't have a problem. But at one point, I got to do the whole building. Sorry, I just got to send this voicemail. But for now, like I told you, we have a lot of people that are letting us in, so we're not there yet. But at the end, and the way that the numbers are going with COVID, like when we had this meeting in June 3rd, the situation is not where the situation is today. So for sure, at one point, I got to finish the building. I can't not finish the building.
So that's a slightly different reply than you provided on June 3rd, which is that the tenants can decline the work altogether.
Well, I meant that they can decline the work now during these COVID periods. Again, like I told you, I didn't express myself. At one point, I got to do the whole building.
Okay. So Tyler Johnson from my office is taking these notes. So we're going to summarize just for everyone who's watching and listening, and just for our own record keeping, just to keep it all straight. We will summarize the comments that George has provided and update the reply. So the other, the second tenant request, here we go, is limited.
Hours.
That's right,
Limited,
correct.
limited, this, by the way, again, but you're gonna change that I'm blaming her. But you know, when you want the renovations to be over, I don't think they're working 12 hours, but I don't want to say that they're not working 12 hours because there's different groups of people working. Again, if you want the work out of your way, I have to do the work like, you know, in a more constant way. The reason that this has taken so long, and it's not anybody's fault, it's not my fault, it's not the tenant's fault, it's not anybody's fault. With COVID, we had to start and stop many times. And the suppliers too have the same problems. So to me, the quicker I finish, the quicker I'm out of their, you know, the most disruptive job is this window job. If I let my people finish, by the end of August, it'll be finished. But if I make them go, come back, come back. First of all, the building is in a mess. Second of all, the elevator too is being used because what I'm trying to do is to accommodate people so that, you know, they're working on many different floors instead of working top to bottom. But again, that's nobody's fault. Some people don't want me in, I understand.
So what the tenants are asking for is some clear information about when the noisiest work will be done. And so therefore they can plan their lives around that. So has your office provided that? First of all, the jackhammering in the garage, I can't tell them when they're going to jackhammer, not jackhammer. Like, you know, you follow, how to say, a work, you follow work, you don't know that you're going to be, you can't predict that you're going to be jackhammering in the garage from 2 to 4 or from 8 to 10. It's hard for me to give a schedule when I'm going to jackhammer. Like, so you have to do better than that and get it from your contractor. What I can better do is give you a schedule of when I think the windows will finish, when I think the garage will finish, when I think the jackhammering will finish. That I can get you an idea. I'm coming up tomorrow and I'm meeting with everybody to get exactly that idea. I want to know where we're going and where things are at. Item number 3, recognition that the apartments are homes, that they have the right to safe enjoyment, uninterrupted access to their home. So we need a reply on how you will ensure that will happen. Well, like I told you, they're entitled to their homes, but if there's repairs to do, I'm entitled to go into their homes to do the repairs as quickly, safely, and respecting their, how do you say, their personal effects. Which, like I tell you, I think I've been doing because I've done a lot of apartments already where people live in them. We'll make a note of your reply. Following item is the tenants are asking for respectful interactions with management. And I know that Nolan is also on the call, so perhaps Nolan would like to also supplement George's reply.
So Nolan is, this is NASCO speaking. I have him on a speakerphone because he's still unable to join both on phone and on the meeting. So it's going to be difficult to reply. Nolan, do you want to try and answer to the best of your ability? But I think it's going to be difficult on his end.
Honestly, NASCO, you can tell that we missed half the meeting. You don't know what they said for us to give a plausible reply. You know, George all the that stuff. But the respectful interactions of management, we've done everything. We've done most of the slate. But we come to Tanya to like whatever problems George says. The tenants that come in, we deal with them. There's, again, like I agree with George. Like, so you're Nolan, I apologize. It's Krystin speaking, the counselor. Your audio is very choppy for us. I think what I heard from you is that you missed half of the meeting, so that perhaps you don't feel comfortable in replying. So I can certainly accept that. My apologies for the tech challenges. I've experienced them myself, and so have a few other members of the community at 33 Isabella. So I'm going to maybe redirect that question back to George. George, I think what just happened, even as we were getting ready for your remarks,
was a pretty heated exchange. What we want to do is avoid the heated exchange, which is why we put a lot of these things in writing, just so there's no misunderstanding of what is being said and what is being represented. So the tenants want to make sure that they have the
But again,
opportunity.
honestly, like, I've been in business a long time. I have a lot of people. For us, I think when people start blaming each other, and when you start the conversation by telling me that your patience is wearing thin, you're not helping me not to get nervous. You know, if we're going to work together, everybody's got to work together, and you can't have veiled threats. And when you tell me that your patience is running low, I don't like that, because mine's running low too. I'm trying to be I want this thing to resolve. I don't want to fight with Janice. I don't want to fight with anybody. And the reason that I'm on this call is trying to make this an amicable discussion. I don't want to push myself into. I know what my rights are. I don't want to play that game. I want this to finish beautifully. I want the tenants to be happy in their apartment. I don't want to have any problems with anybody. But I think that when you tell me that your patience is running thin, we're not exactly helping to have a meaningful discussion. Again, my mother was a psychologist. I kind of understand what language means. All my life, I was with a psychologist, so I understand what it means. So when people, before they let me talk, tell me that your patience is running, you're not helping it to make it not making me stressful and not making me heated. And the reason that I'm wasting my time here, and the reason I'm coming up to Toronto tomorrow, is exactly for that. I want to be able to give the tenants, not you, my tenants, a schedule. And not only Janice, all the tenants in the building to me are the same. There's not one tenant that's more important than another. I'm trying to give
That's very encouraging to hear, George. So thank you. The fact that you're coming
and again,
to speak to your tenants.
And
I appreciate that.
And I don't want to insult you in any way. I'm very sorry. I don't want to insult you in any way. No,
George, don't worry about me. I've got some pretty thick hide. But
Okay,
what will demonstrate to me that the relationship has improved is when the tenant complaints stop coming in my office. So if there's no more requests for my participation in these discussions, if I'm no longer being asked to come and help, then I'm happy to turn my attention to other business in the ward elsewhere. And I'm assuming that MPP Morrison is feeling the same way. So I want to be able to just move along. Because we do have a big agenda. We're not using our time effectively. So okay. The next question, Tyler, do you want to put it back on the screen? We have a number of them, so you know it could be. Number five. It's all the same things that we've been talking about. So go ahead. Do you want me to help you where we left off?
No, what is, I'm following the Tenants Association list. I'm not, which is to me number 5, delay till the pandemic's over. Is that the one you're talking about, or no? That's where you are?
So okay, if you don't see it on the screen, so you can pick it up from there. The other thing you can do is, you know, I'm just realizing that I want to make sure that we have the tenant voices in here. So George, why don't we do this? Okay. I think let's put everything in writing. I know you got lawyers. I know you've got property managers. So why don't you give us a reply in writing? Because you now have a submission from the tenants that's slightly different and reiterating what was said on June the 3rd and now June the 25th. So when can we expect your reply to their submission?
Give me till the end of next week.
Okay, so we're talking next Friday. Thank you.
Yes, let's say the 9th of July.
Okay, so I think we can more than accept that. Is that correct, tenants? I just want to make sure that, no? Okay, so there's a difference of opinion here, George. Janice and Christina, if July the 9th is not suitable for you, what would be suitable for the association?
We're concerned that the longer the gaps are in our communication, the more work is done in between. So by the time we get this resolved, there will be nothing left to resolve. We won't.
Janice, I don't want to be impolite, but it took you 3 weeks. I waited 3 weeks for your list of tenants. I think that you can wait a week when there's Canada Day tomorrow. I think you can wait till next Friday. I don't think it's exaggerated demand. You have a lot, you have, again, I have your letter. You have 16 points. I don't think it's fair for you to ask me to do it. Either you want me to answer correctly, or you want me just to answer anything. Like, read what you've asked me to do, right? Read all these questions. How do you want me to answer that in a day?
We don't expect
I don't,
one
it's
day.
not,
This
it's not in a
is
day.
Monday.
But Monday, tomorrow's
to
a
be
holiday.
a week
Tomorrow's
from
a
Friday
holiday,
is
Friday,
2 more
Friday.
weeks.
It's
By
not
then you'll
tomorrow.
have done another dozen apartments.
But
There
what do
are
you want?
a lot of people.
If people are letting me in, Janice, it doesn't matter, right? If people are letting me in, not complaining. Whoever
So
doesn't want me in,
They
I
are
can't do it to
complaining.
myself. No, they aren't.
George and
They are.
Janice, if I
We're
may
gonna have
just,
that discussion later. The only thing is, I need till next Friday. I don't want to promise something that I will not deliver to you.
A week from today is fine.
But a week from tomorrow's Canada Day, and a lot of my employees are taking Friday off. I'm working tomorrow. I'm flying up to Toronto
okay.
just to
So-
finish it, work on this, which is the schedule, which to me is the most important thing is the schedule, right? Because the schedule covers a lot of your questions, right? Covers the window coverings, covers the cleaning, covers everything, covers a lot of it, right? And for me to have better communication, I got to know exactly with my people what they're doing and how long it's going to take.
So George, thank you very much for that. So I'm going to maybe just lean in here. So I recognize that the tenants are very keen to have a reply from you sooner rather than later. But I also think that you raise a very good point. Tomorrow is a statutory holiday. I know many people are also taking the Friday off. I'm not, but certainly that doesn't stop people from doing so. So, you know, if you can persevere to have it to us before Friday, next Friday, that would be desirable. But we can anticipate a reply from you, a detailed reply from you by no later than next Friday. And if you can pursue, and please pursue an earlier response if possible. Okay.
And the last point that I'd like to make, and sorry for interrupting you again, for this to work well and for everybody to be happy, there's got to be like a little bit of flexibility. I'm not going to get 100% what I want. The tenants maybe are not going to get 100% of they want right away. But for us to finish this, and I don't like when people get nervous against me, for this to finish amicably, we've all got to, it's got to be a little bit of a give and take. And that's why I'm happy that you're here and all the group that's working very hard to make this happen in a more harmonious way.
There are a number of tenants who are also joining us today, and I'm sure that there are folks who want to have an opportunity to say a few words to all of us who are on the screen. So I want to be able to flag and acknowledge them. Tyler, can you help me moderate who should be recognized first?
Yeah, we just have two hands. The first one is Wade. Wade, you're able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. My question is for George. I have a recorded call from Monday in which building manager Nolan Rodriguez admits to breaking the law by inappropriately adding charges to my account. Will you terminate him?
I think you're the one that kicked my elevator. Going in, we have you on camera kicking the elevator. Why would you damage my property for me not to get paid?
I believe I asked the question first, sir.
No, but I'm asking you, why should I cancel a charge that you were damaging my property and I have you on cameras?
So you don't wish to answer this question then, sir?
I'm answering the question. I'm telling you that I'm not.
No, sir, you're asking another question.
You vandalized the elevator and you have to pay for it.
When I left the elevator, it was in working fashion, as your video indicates. When I was there, sir, I had asked for help when one of your construction workers wouldn't let me leave. He kept putting his hand in the elevator, preventing me from returning to my home, as your video indicates. And I asked for help from Dan, from the building manager, which your video also indicates. He was standing there the whole... Excuse me, sir, please don't interrupt me. As the video indicates, Dan was there and I asked for help. I then went over to your other building and asked for help there. I didn't receive a single response regards to my safety concerns. I did receive a letter regarding the charges for the elevator, and it clearly indicates on that letter that building management was the one that indicated that there was a problem and not the elevator technician. So I refer to my original question where I said that Nolan Rodriguez put this charge onto my account illegally, and he admits to doing it illegally.
First of all, it's not illegal, and for that, we're going to go to tenant and landlord. We'll go to the.
Sir, you
and
only
we'll
decided to go
find
to
out
the
if it's so.
landlord and tenant board once I told him that that was the proper procedure.
Yeah, but like I told you, so we'll go there, and if you're right, you're right. And
So
if
you're,
you're not.
so sir, you're admitting as well that you put those charges on my account inappropriately. Am I correct?
I'm not telling you that it's inappropriate. To me, it's appropriate. To you, it's inappropriate, and that's why
Well,
there's
what's the law
judges
state,
in the
sir?
world.
What does the law state, sir?
I'm not a. You seem to be a law expert. I think we're wasting a lot of time with you.
I don't think we're wasting time at all, sir. I think that this is a very
I think
important
we're
question
wasting
with
a
1,100.
lot of time.
Krystin, may I just
Wait.
chime in? Sorry to interrupt. I think it's a little bit.
Is this NASCO?
Yes, this is NASCO. I think it's a little bit unfair towards Nolan. Unfortunately, he's unable to join because again, we're only getting one side of the story. I'm sure that
I have
George
submitted multiple
is not-
emails to your company, both the info at Cromwell, and have not received any response to my safety concerns. This was 2 weeks ago, and I have not received a response.
Wade, this is Krystin speaking.
Thank
Thank you for raising your concern and sharing your concern. I think that you do deserve a reply. It sounds to me that perhaps George is not in a place to respond as of yet. Perhaps it's a matter of the fact that he and Nolan haven't spoken. But what I'd like to do is put a little pin in what you've just described, and we can certainly come back to it. And maybe we can have a further conversation about this, because this sounds like a very serious matter.
Yes, I would
so
appreciate that. I might need a lawyer, I think, or maybe I can consult with your office and decide, you know, what the appropriate way of going to rectify this is.
Yes, thank you. So the provincial jurisdiction around the Residential Tenancy Acts will fall under MPP Morrison's office.
Okay,
And
thank you.
so I know that she's ready to jump in and give you a hand. But thank you for taking the time to share your comments. And I think it also takes a little bit of courage to speak up. So thank you for saying that. George, I think there's one more comment that's coming from the audience. Aro, are you still there?
Hello, yes.
Yeah, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, so I had something to mention. I don't think it's shouldn't be that big of an issue to resolve. So the window installation sheets mentions that it is the entry would be between 7:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. And the Residential Tenancies Act, Chapter 17, Section 27, Subsection 3 says the entry must be between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And I spoke with a legal aid just to make sure that I was understanding this correct, and they did confirm that entry at 7:30 a.m. Without permission is illegal. And I did go to the office asking, you know, if it was possible to just delay and move it 30 minutes later. I'm okay with having the re-entry be, you know, if I can't enter until 30 minutes after the end, that's okay. Move it to 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. That's fine. But they kind of shrugged me off, said it was all legal, but they didn't give me any explanations. And I just wanted to know, is it possible to move it to the legal hours starting at 8 a.m. or if it is indeed legal to start at 7:30 a.m., maybe some clarifications as to you know, what law.
Let's say to change your hour to 8 a.m. I don't think we have a problem with that. For legal, I don't know. I can't tell you for legal.
So,
But I think 8 a.m. is a problem. Did they
Sorry,
do your
if I may
they did-
address that further as well, this is NASCO. I believe what the actual notice states is that the work is going to begin at 7:30, which preparation due. I don't believe that any tenant has received entrance before 8 a.m. So the work does begin at 7:30 a.m., but that begins with the mobilization for the work for the day. So although the notice states 7:30, that is when the workers get to site, they start preparing their tools, prepare their materials for the day, etc. And entry, I don't believe has ever been before 8 a.m. to any unit. And if I am wrong and this has happened, then the office should definitely be notified. So the 7:30 is when the work begins, not necessarily when people will go into your unit physically. Correct? So there might be some noise if you're leaving and if you see tenants in the common areas, maybe preparing, getting their materials ready. This is why the notice states 7:30 a.m. instead of saying 8 a.m. But entry inside the unit and the work inside the unit, I don't believe has ever begun at even right at 8, let alone before.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, because when I asked the office to clear that up for me, they did say they would enter the unit at 7:30 sharp.
No, 7:30 is when the workers begin their
Okay.
work. Again, it begins with preparation of the work. If there is an occurrence where they are entering at 8 a.m. or before, and the owner has been very lenient, if people do not have different times, and I think it was even stated in the reply from them, that if they request different hours or different dates that work better for the tenants, they will do the best to accommodate. But if there is entry before 8 a.m., you should definitely let the office know.
So if a worker just makes a mistake, tries to enter slightly before, I can just politely ask them to come back at 8 a.m., correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
So thank you, Aro. Thank you, Wade, for your comments and questions. I think that, you know, it's interesting because I think, you know, just those two examples of tenants having further questions is an excellent illustration of how useful it has been to summarize all the high level questions and requests coming from the Tenants Association. The other thing that I want to offer for the owner side, George and the property manager, is that my office and Tyler, working with MP's office, we filtered through a lot of requests. Some of those requests that we did not bring forward simply because I think they were out of scope. And so I just hope that there is some recognition that the list that's before you now, even though it may appear long, is actually a much, much shorter list than what could have come forward. So I know that we are entirely out of time, but I want to be able to wrap up this discussion, I think, in a constructive and forward-facing manner. Thank you to the tenants for your participation, and of course, obviously, for putting your time in organizing these thoughts and the requests. I think it's very synchronized and it makes a lot of sense. Thank you, George, for your participation today, and to Nolan. I apologize that we had such tech difficulties. We certainly look forward to your reply to the tenants' written submissions. That Janice has undertaken and pledged to submit to you a further list of tenants, including the reported issues. So you'll then have two lists from her, one just in terms of a summary of who she represents and who they represent, Krystin and her collectively, but also another summary of what the grievances are. So I think that our next meeting should be focused on the reply that comes from George, and then subsequently some of the concerns regarding the tenants. I recognize that we aren't going to get into every single individual tenant cases, but what I'd like to hear from the side of property management and the ownership is that you're working on it. So therefore, I know that it's getting to a resolution that will hopefully be satisfactory to all parties. The tracking form that we showed you was largely our way of trying to help organize this discussion. We're going to continue to use that tracking form, and what I'd like to see, and hopefully you would all agree, is that we reach a satisfactory outcome. George, you said that you were heading to meet with your tenants or head to the building tomorrow. So certainly I think that is agreeable, and thank you very much for letting us know what
I'm meeting the contractors tomorrow.
I see. Okay,
Right.
so thank you for clarifying that. I think that it would be helpful for you or your property management to set up perhaps a weekly discussion in the interim with the tenants who may be interested in getting more intimate details in between the larger discussions. If that is something that is available to them as a resource, I think that will be helpful. It will also allow this discussion to be even more streamlined as we focus on the big thematic pieces, because you can get some of the tenant concerns, individual tenant concerns addressed in a much more timely fashion. So this is where I'd like to draw the meeting to a close, and hopefully this is agreeable to those on the call and those who are participating. If there's a way for us to improve this process, feel free to reach out to my office. George, if you have time for a separate call, I would like to maybe set up a call for yourself, myself, and MPP Morrison to see how we can actually move through this in an even more efficient manner, so we can get to a good outcome. So I'd like to extend you that and an opportunity to meet with elected representatives separate from this forum. And of course, we can all report back, all three of us collectively, on the outcome of those conversations.
Anytime that's good for you, just send me a note and we can do a conference call, no problem.
I'm going to definitely take you up on that offer.
Just
So
give me
if
in the next couple of days, like I tell you, if you want Friday, just tell me when you want me to be on the conference call, the number to call in, or next Monday, Tuesday, any day you want.
Okay, thank you. Don't worry, our schedulers will get it all together for us very soon. So I want to say thank you to everybody. This has been a good, passionate discussion. I know there were times where we kind of lost control as we talked over each other. I apologize for my own share in that activity. That's not a parliamentarian attitude and behavior. And so I will own that on my own behalf, but I hope that we can move forward in a much more constructive and efficient manner next time, and even further and more respectful dialogue. So thank you to all of you. Please be well. We will be in communication with you all very shortly. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and nice Canada Day.
Well done.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.